I'm going to show you how to use this little table to guide your project. So we have our 4 principles: cultural centeredness, community engagement, integrated knowledge translation and systems thinking. And so in each of these boxes it gives you what you need to do really well in each of those things, and then progressively less well, and then how to do it really badly. So that's just a guide of where you want to be. Don't beat yourself up too much if you can't get all highs, because I don't think everybody can get all highs. And when you evaluate yourself and you find yourself down here, then you can plan progressively how to go further up. And the important thing is that you do reflect yourself as to where you are on the table, but also to get other people to give feedback on where they are. So those other people are your community partners, your end users, and other people who are involved in the project, like subject matter experts. So you may think you're doing really well and up here, and others may think that you're doing not so well. So, and then you have a discussion about how you can move up. So as an example, under cultural centeredness and community voice, I'll talk to the high level. So the gold standard here is that the community is involved in defining the problem and developing the solution. So we know that can't always happen. Sometimes you have funding to, say, address diabetes. So the problem is predefined, but underneath that heading of diabetes, then you can go to the community and get them to define what are the problems causing the diabetes, and then how to solve the problems that they have defined. So you can go further down. So for example, with reflexivity, if you don't have very good Māori leadership or Indigenous representation within the research team or the implementation team, the important thing is that you think about this and you're reflexive of this, and you ask for feedback from Māori leadership from externally, and that you plan for how you're going to mitigate that. And so what can you do to bring that Māori voice, and how are you going to privilege the Māori voice within your team? So for moving on to structural transformation and resources, a lot of projects don't have a budget for structural transformation and resources. So talk to your community members about what you can do within the constraints of your budget to leave something tangible and ongoing that will benefit the community from their perspective. So you can think about what they might come up with something totally left field that you can still do within the constraints of your budget. So the important thing is to actually have that communication continuously, reflect on how you're doing, at least every 3 to 6 months. With community engagement, it's really important to get strong community leadership and to share that decision making. The problem is sometimes it's quite hard to get time and identify leaders from the community to enable that to happen. So you need to think about this right up from the start of the project and resource the community appropriately and support them so that they can contribute the time that is needed to enable strong community engagement and participation in shared decision making. And it may not be very strong right from the start when you're starting up, but aim to progressively not devolve decision making from your implementation or research team through to the community. So for example, with one of our projects, the community and the researchers had shared decision making. Well, it was actually more the researchers at the start, and then there was a lot of checking in with each other, and then in the end it was the community telling us, oh, by the way, we have done this, we've rolled out another cohort, we've totally changed the eligibility criteria, but they'd tell us that retrospectively further down the line. So it was a really nice progression from unequal power sharing through to equal, through to community privileging of the power. Integrated knowledge translation is about involving the potential end users right from the start. So for example, one of my projects is around tobacco, around a product that Pharmac's not currently funding for use in hospitals. So we've engaged with Pharmac right from the start with the draft research proposal and adjusted the design to answer their questions. So when we get the results, we'll be able to say this is the findings, and then they can use that directly to influence their policy around the funding of the nicotine replacement therapy product. And IKT involves a really good comms plan and checking in with those end users constantly around how they want that information delivered. Do you want presentations? Do you want articles? Who should we meet with? What kind of information do you need? Is this the right type of information? What's changed since we last met? And because things are constantly changing. Systems perspectives. Firstly, we need to think holistically. We need to think about the political environment. We need to think about the determinants of health, and each project sits within a sphere of influence, and all of these things influence each other. So it's about bringing in multiple perspectives. Try and get people who disagree with each other so that you can get multiple perspectives. It's very easy to lock yourself in a box just with people who agree with you. That's not going to get anybody anywhere. So bring in a diverse range of multiple perspectives right from the start. Systems relationships is about understanding complexity within this huge big complex system, and that's where those multiple perspectives are gold, because different people have different understandings and different levels of expertise at each of those levels and each of those feedback loops. And unintended consequences are everywhere, and everybody has a different level of understanding that they can bring to the table. So within systems levels, ideally you want to have a good understanding of the macro, meso and micro levels and address each of those explicitly within your project, and have a really good understanding of why you're doing that, and keep reflecting back and look at what's changing, both from your perspective as a team, but also getting those multiple stakeholders together and asking for their help with that reflection. So there's a lot more information there, but you can go ahead and read that at your leisure.